Hello, friends. Making sure that our audio is good. Shaun, thank you for hopping on CityClips. For those of you who are not familiar, I'm Julia Holly, owner of Jage Creative and also co-founder of CityClips. And we're focused on covering everything related to business and tech. And really thankful to have Shaun Davis here on local Tallahassee, expert on data. He's an analytics strategist and data analytics and bespoke. His expertise is in data analytics and bespoke visualization, working for the Action Company. I've known it as Action Analytics. So thanks, Shaun, for hopping on my show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Julia. I'm really excited to talk more about data and how we put it to use here in Tallahassee and really across the country and the world.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about like how you got to Tallahassee and how you got into the world of data.
Yeah, it's a fun story. So, like a lot of people in Tallahassee, Florida State was the draw. So I came up here in 2006, and I wanted to be a game warden, actually. My dad was a biologist, and so spent a lot of time out in nature, and really enjoyed nature and enjoyed seeing people out fishing, hunting, enjoying our great outdoors. I got a job with Florida Fish and Wildlife, and I got sucked into the world of data through manatees and boating and where people need to go slow to protect them. And so, kind of, my first draw was maps and looking at maps and trying to really understand, okay, we have all this data and all this information. How do we help people make decisions with it? How do we help officers that are out trying to protect people and protect manatees use that data to make a decision, to put signs where it'll help people comply with the law, because most people want to comply with the law. They don't want to go out on the boat and get a ticket. And so really that's what my career has been focused on, is how do I work with really passionate, really talented people in a specific domain, but use data and use technology to turn that into action for them. And so that's taken a bunch of different turns and twists throughout my career. It's looked at everything from crash data and safety data at Florida Department of Transportation, insurance and marketing data at Florida Healthy Kids. And then I went to the private sector and worked for Kraft Heinz. And so looking at coffee prices and the price of lunch meat and how well that is doing, to even looking at with Procter and Gamble, looking at diaper quality. And so really across my career, it's always been, how do we turn data into action? And working again with these really passionate people, but the discipline really doesn't matter. And it's also boring stuff. Well, not boring stuff, more mundane stuff like finance data. But it's always about, okay, how do we turn this into action? How do we build a tool? How do we help people understand the data so that they can make informed choices and really make decisions confidently?
Yeah, I'm just pulling up your website here. Really, really well done. And just to get an idea
Thanks.
of what, obviously the team is like, great branding, really great example of how a company should represent themselves. So primarily, is the team mostly, is it full-time remote? Like you have a combination? Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so there's like a kind of confusing word that's on there. We're a independent network of professionals. So think of like a law firm, but we don't have an office. We are all remote and spread across the country, everywhere from California to Kansas to Maryland, Texas, all of these great places. And what we're able to do is build a platform for people that don't want the traditional employment model, where you have to wear the blue shirt, you have to do this, there's all this overhead to doing the work, and it's not as much work as being a freelancer. And so we fit right in the middle of that. It is unlike any other company that I've ever found. We highly value design and really being thoughtful, and we have a ton of quotes, but kind of the motto of the SEALs of slow is smooth and smooth is fast. We employ that internally, but then we also employ that for our clients. And so we have a bunch of different service offerings, but really it's everything around how do we turn data into action, and how do we, so if you are and the type of people that we look for are, if you're a person that believes and sees the value of data, we want to have a conversation with you. And either you don't have the skills or don't have the time to bring that dream into a reality. That's where we come in and try and make that happen for you.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you mentioned earlier that the tagline, yours in particular, is you turn data into action, pretty much, right? That's
Yep.
which
Yeah,
is
that's what we do.
perfect fit. And I think I saw it also in the bottom footer. It's about reducing complexity to actionable insights, which is really
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, like what we were talking about before is like, people love to see data. To, if you take a hurricane, for example, everybody loves to see, all right, what's the wind speed? What's the forecast? Well, I mean, at least I do because I'm a data person. But it's fascinating, the amount of data that gets produced, and it's really about, nobody likes to go and get the data and collect it, and like, humans weren't made to copy and paste data in Excel. That's not why any of us went to college. And
You should pull up
I've
the
made it.
Excel monster.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, that's what I've made my mission in life, is to get rid of humans copying and pasting data. So people hate that, but they love looking at charts and graphs and finding the insights so that they can make a decision and moving on with their life. So that's what I'm passionate about in the work world.
That's cool. I see here on, and I'll go ahead and just add it again, but it shows clearly the approach of your team. Can you kind of explain a little bit about your process?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the ACT system is, as you see here, advanced data aptitude, create compelling data messages, and transform your organization. So going back to that principle of slow is smooth and smooth is fast,
Mm-hmm.
we're not coming in to be your consultant forever. We want to grow your internal capabilities, and we want to design systems that are built for your skill level. So if your people are super comfortable in Excel, we're not going to come in and pitch some crazy AI thing just so that we can impress our friends at the bar. Like, we're going to build a thing that works for you and works for your organization. And so it's really about advancing your data aptitude. Those compelling data messages are, we want to make really clear visuals that you can look at and go, oh, here's the 3 things I need to do. And then I move on with my life, instead of staring at a sea of numbers and, seeing some massive wave or dealing with some Excel monster. Yeah. And just getting lost in that sea of numbers, because I've seen it happen before, of like, people's eyes glaze over and they just don't get it. And as a data person, that's really frustrating, because I want you to change your business and change your behavior and change how you work based on data.
Yeah, as you mentioned earlier too, that data is everywhere.
Yeah.
And I've heard the saying data is the new oil now. So I know with different companies at different stages, there's benefits to looking into data, consumer data,
Yep.
leads list, that kind of thing. But then there's complex industries, I would imagine, like healthcare, or maybe government has tons of data.
Yep.
So like, what types of industries have has Action worked in? And then also, I know that you provide services to Fortune 500 businesses. So if you wanted to highlight some of the ones that you can, I would love
Yeah.
to hear about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of work at 2 ends of the spectrum. We work with small groups or small companies, where they don't have the ability to, they don't have enough capacity or resources to have their own internal analytics team. And so we come alongside them and try and build those capabilities and provide that fractional service to them. And then we work with very large companies, like I said, people that I've worked with before. I mean, most of our business is with private industry. but the core people that we're looking for are people that believe in the value of data and know the value of data kind of intrinsically, and either lack those skills or lack the time and the capacity to bring that dream into a reality. And so, I've worked with Walmart and Kraft Heinz and Procter and Gamble and a lot of the large companies out there. But really, it's about finding those people in those companies, large or small, who believe in the value of data and what it can do for their organization.
So what are you seeing here locally and also in the region? Are you finding that people are actually valuing data and getting into the analytics of it all? And
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, whether you look at state government, nonprofit, private, um, everyone is drowning in data. They have more data now and access to more data than they know what to do with. And the tooling, in the same respect, the tooling is really no longer a problem. Whether it's Tableau or Power BI or Looker, or just Excel and spreadsheets, everybody, and now AI, like everybody has access to the tools, everybody has access to the data. And so sometimes it's a skills gap, sometimes it's a capacity gap. And really, yeah, AI is making big changes, and it's late with AI, but it's also really, really early. And so I'm excited about it. I use it almost daily. Um, whether it's helping me write Python. I mean, like looking at election data last night, I just told ChatGPT, hey, go to the Leon County Supervisor of Election website and scrape this data and pull it down and bring it into an Excel file. And then I visualized it in Tableau. And I did the same thing with hurricane data. And so um, it's not a lack of desire on people's parts. And so I think that's what we're seeing is finally everybody, kind of the playing field is level. And the problems that I see, whether it's in software companies in California or here in Tallahassee at state government, the problems are exactly the same. It's just the scale and scope of the zeros behind the number or how much data you're talking about. And so people across the country are struggling with the same thing of how do we turn data into action.
wow. So where are you seeing opportunities here in Tallahassee that, the data could be publicly available, but nobody even knows?
Yeah. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Tallahassee, there are tons of people who there's like a concept of an L6 person. And so they are usually like 6 levels down from the CEO. And they can oftentimes be the one person who knows the most about the company. A lot of times there are people that are intimately familiar with the data. And there's tons of people like that here in Tallahassee who know all the ins and outs of the data that our state produces or our city produces. And so there's tons of opportunities for private businesses, for people to freelance and to find that free, publicly available data and turn that into a product. Because a couple of years ago, there was a big push with like data portals and data hubs. And it's like, well, we have the data, but there is still that gap of, okay, how do we turn that data into information? And so, there's just tons of data in this city, and people across it use, they're using tons of data, whether it's insurance regulation or DOT or, Department of Management Services or the universities. Everybody is drowning in data, but they're starved for those actionable insights that they can say, oh, here's the 3 things that I need to go and do.
Would you say that, obviously I actually happen to be invited to it, and I appreciate it because it's not like I'm an expert in data. I was invited to a career fair with the data science, FSU data science
Mhm.
department, and just because I was interested in meeting students,
Sure.
studying all of that. And because with CityClips, we are starting to collect a lot of data. And I was thinking maybe an intern would be interested in studying everything, all the numbers, click rates, open rates. I know that's just very elementary, according to your expertise, but I don't have time to analyze it.
Right.
I'm happy to look at the bigger overall numbers and where we're seeing a lot more activity and interest. I would love to see what Tallahassee is a more geared, the audience is more interested in, and I'm noticing some funny things about the topics that they'll click on and things like that. But yeah, I would love for an intern to just like focus on that. Anyways, so for you and what you're seeing, that there's lots of opportunity because there's so much data, especially with our city, county, and even as a state, right? What kind of role do you think makes the most sense to fill? Like, what's the title? And then for a smaller business that can't hire an outside team.
Yeah, that's a great question. If you're looking to get started out, you really want to look for somebody that you want to have like a data analyst role. And that's where I started out is, okay, let me analyze the data and turn it into, hey, here's the 3 things that you need to do. Now I build the tools so that data analysts or, people like yourself can go in and quickly look at your open rates, look at what are those trends that you can then turn into, okay, here's topics that we need to expand on. And so if you're a small business, looking for somebody that is a data analyst. And Florida State has a great program. They have a master's in business analytics. They have a great statistics program. They have a great economics program. And I've hired or worked with people out of all of those programs, and they are excellent. And so that's where I would look. FAMU, I just saw, has they just had a partnership with. They had one with Bloomberg. I'm trying to remember who the other team is that's working with them now.
Yes, I think they just opened a new lab, right?
Right. And so FAMU's got, they've got great programs there. And so look for people from stats, econ, even, again, my degree is in criminology. And so you can even look at non-traditional backgrounds and say, give them a paid sample project and say, hey, here's some data about our company, and just give them the data and see what they come back with. And that is a great way to find diamonds in the rough, and to develop them, and really find those opportunities.
And what's really neat is that your team actually customizes, right? Is it like some kind of app or a platform that you guys customize? You take the data and you have something you use to code, and then you visualize it and come up with actionable results?
That's a great question. A lot of the tools that we work with, it depends on the client. And so as consultants, we have to be versatile and varied in what we're able to produce. But a lot of the things that we major on for visualization is Tableau. That's our go-to. That's where a lot of our people have their experience. We have, if you're in the Tableau world, a guy named Jonathan Drummy, who is kind of the godfather of that tool and making it usable and accessible for people across the world. But we use Tableau, we use SQL and Python. And then there's a whole host of platforms. Another one that we're really excited about is one called Data IQ. And so it's their pitch is it's a platform for clickers and coders to be able to come together and work with data. And so if you have a situation where you have really technical people that can write in SQL and Python and other languages or R, and then you have people that need to be able to kind of drag and drop and use those tools, it's a great central place for them to come together. And so that's a platform that's been out there for a while. They're heavy in the financial industry, but we see it really as the future, really just along with AI. It's pretty huge.
Really cool. And I mean, speaking of, I'm pulling up one of your Tableau reports, and this is really cool. I love how you guys pretty much grabbed the data related to MLS teams. And I know this was probably created, I think it's saying that it's 2021. So, it's probably more now. Oh, yeah. And I don't think Messi was in the picture yet.
No, Messi wasn't there yet, but this is from This is from Steve Fenn. He was a great consultant for us, and he produced this. And this is very much not standard from Tableau. This is very hard to produce, and so
Wow.
this is the quality and the capability that we bring to all of our clients, and we
This
want to
is
try
so
and
cool.
make beautiful, compelling visualizations that are really easy to work with.
And this is very accurate. Like it's not just a general visualization. These are spot on accurate.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
accuracy is huge
Yeah.
in the world of data for sure.
If I go back, then it pulls up. So Tableau, this is all I guess it's considered like your company profile on Tableau.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this is Tableau Public. This is our portfolio of work that we have, and so yeah, you can look at a lot of MLS data. I have one on how are your tweets performing down in the bottom left corner if you scroll back
Oh,
down.
cool. Yeah, I'm the lazy one who won't find the numbers, but I love these visuals.
Yeah, and so like this is all fake data because you can see it's lorem ipsum, or it's
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it is
Yeah.
lorem ipsum, but it's like this is what we want to try and produce so that you as the social media manager can just go in and make a decision and look at, okay, how have things, what's my top performing tweet, what time are they performing well, and
Hmm.
we just want to try and make it really, really easy for you.
Wow, this is so neat. And you mentioned that you are also like I know you've mentioned briefly about testing AI and everything like that. So,
Yeah,
um, how has it impacted your industry? Is it
yeah.
Yeah, like
There-
are you guys concerned or is it something that you guys are excited about?
yeah, that's a great question. I would say we're excited about it. I'm excited about it. I see it as another tool, and it's a tool that I use on a daily basis. Um, so whether it's writing, I know how to write Python, I know how to write SQL, but sometimes there's a complex thing that I know how to do that I don't want to spend 20 minutes doing. And so I'll just tell ChatGPT, hey, write this thing. Here's the inputs, here's the outputs. And it works 90% of the time with a little bit of modification. And so that's where I see the big value. AI is still really young. And what there is the potential for it to replace a lot of people, but I see it more, instead of like a zero sum, as a net benefit. So just like going from the spreadsheets of old, where if you made a change to a calculation, you had to spend the whole day sitting there and writing up, making the cascading changes to all those formulas. Going from that to an electronic spreadsheet where you can make one change and it updates everything automatically was revolutionary, back in the late 70s, early 80s. Um, AI will be completely different. It's going to upend a lot of industries, but I think we should view it as an overall opportunity, to do work more efficiently and to automate the boring stuff that we don't want to do. And so, if you can give it an image and then it can give you a table of numbers back, well, it just saved you 10 minutes of copying and pasting data. And that's one more way that people don't have to copy and paste data.
Yeah, and it is nice that it just pretty much saves time. I'm a big fan of saving time
Yes.
and
Yeah.
money.
Yeah. And
um,
that's what we're, at Action, that's what we're all about is, um, it shouldn't be this hard to work with data. And that's what we're trying to come in and help people with.
I know you had like we touched on this a little bit earlier about like so much data available, especially in our capital and everything. And I think it was, Eddie with Rivos and also just launched Tally in general about how we can really make Tallahassee is as a data capital. Um,
Yeah,
I believe
absolutely.
he wants to say of the world. So I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
that's ambitious. So how do you feel like I know you're saying there's so many things that somebody could just like literally just take action by taking the data and then creating a product. Like, how would they find that? Like, is it where does someone start?
Yeah. Where does somebody look? There are if you go back to a couple of years ago, if you just look for like Florida open data, you will find lots of portals that are out there that bring together a ton of data. Some of the big ones are the U.S. Census, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the St. Louis Fed has a ton. They make a lot of that data that's out there and hard to consume. They make it a lot easier. But if you just Google Florida data or state of Florida data, I mean, like people are always interested in themselves. And so one great way to go and look at that is go look at the state of Florida employee salaries. And you can go and look at your data and see how it compares to everybody else. And so there's tons of ways to follow that passion and follow that scent. And that's what I've always done is like, oh, I'm interested in this thing. Let me just be relentless and go and Google and find the data and use what tools and skills I have available right now. And whether that's a spreadsheet or SQL or Python or whatever I have available or Tableau, let me use that to help analyze it and make a decision. And that's what I think people can do is, Google and use AI, use the tools that you have available that you're comfortable with to go out and find that data.
It's really cool. And I had mentioned earlier too that there's this new role in the marketing world called Rev Gen officer or something along the lines of like analyzing data focused on sales, marketing, and customer experience, and just finding out what is actually making money, like what is making a difference, right? And so I believe that's something that your team could also provide as insights. Like, really, is it just if a company has a need, like, hey, we have all this information on this, what does this mean? Like in certain aspects of their business, like they can just come to you and just say, hey, can you look at this? What does this mean for the business? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it really goes back to that idea of, hey, I've got this idea or this dream of, me as somebody who is managing a newsletter. Well, who's on my list? What are the recent people that dropped out? How do I get them back engaged? What links are people clicking on? What titles, can I do A/B testing and say, okay, this title drove more, if I put an emoji in the title, does that drive a higher open rate versus not having that? And so it's really somebody that knows that, hey, there is data out there. My business is producing a ton of data and I could analyze it or I have analyzed it. I just don't have the time. It's too hard to go and get that. People have breaks around Thanksgiving and Christmas and or slower times in their business, and they'll go in and do a project and say, oh, yeah, this was really great. And I found these insights. But now to do it again, it's going to take me another 40 hours to do that. And I just don't have the time to do it. And so that's where we come in and say, okay, this is possible, or you have this dream or this vision of a company that runs, makes decisions based on these data points. Let's bring that together and make it a reality for you.
That's so cool. And I'm going to wrap up because I know this is pretty much, and to respect your time. I'm so thankful. Like, I want to share really quick too about where people can follow y'all. YouTube, you guys have podcasts, looks like very, very insightful, intriguing conversations. And then people can follow you. Oh, there it goes. LinkedIn with their ads.
Stupid AI.
I know, like they personalize it, and I know it's not even genuine. It's not even a personal message. But yeah, I know. Obviously, they can follow you on LinkedIn. If anybody wanted to contact you, what would be the best thing to do?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn or Twitter. Data Shaun is my handle, and so real simple and easy. And I'd be glad to connect and help people out and just talk about data and nerd out.
Awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to conclude with? I know you have a newsletter that you're growing that's focused on. Yeah, go ahead and briefly talk about that, and then we'll just wrap it up.
Yeah, so I have a newsletter called Analytics Advantage, and it's my ranting and raving about how I think people should work with data. And it is designed for, again, those people who see the value and have the dream of working with data, but really don't know how to get it done. And usually they're people that are leading teams or leading companies. And so if that's you, go to my profiles on LinkedIn or on X and sign up, and I'll be glad to have a conversation with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to be out here and talk about data. I'd love to have you again. Maybe we can zone in on like a specific project you're allowed to share in the future, and even maybe Tallahassee in general.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you, Shaun. I'll see you on the other side. All
Thanks,
right,
Julia.
guys.